In this video, we'll prepare a full cash and GPP lineup for week 11 on the main slate for FanDuel. Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Lee.
And I'm Michael Wiley, and we're the fantasy football consultants. Eric, let's get right to it. We'd like to start with running back, especially in FanDuel. Where do you want to go first?
Yeah, I am going to start with Saquon Barkley, but I am going to tell you, Michael, this particular lineup I really like. So let's see how we're able to put it together. At Saquon Barkley at $9,700, I think the key with Saquon is that he is by far the number one weapon that the New York Giants have. We know all the things that he checks all the boxes about being number of touches, which includes being involved in the passing game, and he's the goal line back, and he faces a tremendous matchup with the Detroit Lions, second worst rush defense. The only question is he worth a $9,700 price? I think he does, and it isn't completely limiting to the rest of the lineup that we want to put together. So let's see what we do. Where are you going to go from there, Michael?
Well, a couple $1,000s less, a guy who really should be being used exactly like Saquon Barkley. Historically, he has been. That's Alvin Kamara. We saw what he did against the Raiders a couple weeks ago. My horrible Raiders. That was the last week that this team has won, and it's been a couple weeks even since then that they won. It's because they haven't used this guy like they should. Andy Dalton looked atrocious this week, and part of it was because there just wasn't any excuse of the run game. And I know the Rams are tough against the run. That's who he gets this week. But look what Kamara has done when he's been utilized. We all know what he's been like historically. I think this is too cheap of a price tag to pass up. I like how things are shaping up this week because the Saints need to use him in order for them to get wins.
All right. So, and this Ram team, at least on the offensive side, man, are they hurting. No Cooper Kupp, maybe no Matthew Stafford. And if the Ram offense is not moving the ball, more opportunities for the New Orleans offense. All right, so let's take a look at wide receiver. Michael, I am so excited that we get this guy in our lineup. It's Amon-Ra St. Brown. I said it last week, and I'll just say it this week. This guy is so valuable with the departure of TJ Hockenson. I'm not just talking about this year. How about the last 6 weeks from last year where Hockenson was out? St. Brown has just gone completely off. So you can expect the type of involvement in targets as he's received the last 3 weeks, 10, 9, 11. And it is just happenstance, I think, that he has not found the end zone. I think he will find the end zone this week as he'll get double-digit targets.
Yeah, no, I really like it. This could be an interesting offensive matchup. I got a guy who's even a few $100s cheaper, who basically sounds almost exactly like what you just said, and that is Terry McLaurin of the Washington Commanders, going up against a Houston defense that looks decent in terms of what the fantasy output has been, and that has been because they've been playing from behind. Or the teams against them have been playing from ahead, and so they've been using the run game. But did you see Terry McLaurin the other night against the Philadelphia Eagles, against a really good defense? He was so open, and they're using him not just down the field. They're using him when they need to get first downs. Taylor Heinicke really likes him. Carson Wentz may be back this week, but I think Terry McLaurin has shown how valuable he is. Look at the targets. Look at the receptions he's had the last several weeks. Use them that way if you want to win, and that's what the Commanders are going to be shooting for after a nice win against Philadelphia on Monday night.
All right, if you watched this far through the video, we just want to remind you, if you haven't yet, please hit that red subscribe button. We're so close to 10,000. Please help us put us over the top. We would really appreciate it. All right, Michael, we have two clear number one wide receivers in St. Brown and McLaurin. How about a third clear number one wide receiver? But we're going to do it by saving some money at $6,000, Darnell Mooney. Look how consistent this guy has been. Go back the last 7 games, he's gotten at least pretty much 52 yards. In this one game, he had 43, but he got in the end zone. Love his consistency. And if you're the problems that this Bear offense has had is over. They're moving the ball so much better than they did at the beginning of the season, which was just awful. And Mooney has been the beneficiary. I do think Claypool helps being on the roster so he doesn't get as many double teams. But you know what really helps is they draw the Atlanta Falcons dead last against the pass.
Yeah, no, I really like this this pick. I got a tight end to go with him, who is kind of similarly just a really key part of the offense for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's Pat Freiermuth. We can't afford to have Andrews in the lineup, and he's coming off an injury and a bye, and who knows we're going to get there. So let's save some money. Let's go with Pat Freiermuth. Look what he other than against Buffalo, who we all know is tough against both the pass and the run, he's gotten 10, 7, 9, 9, 7, 7 targets. He's really key to the Steelers. He's a great pass catcher. He's just one of these guys, maybe not as athletic as Kelsey, but he knows defenses. He knows how to get open. Love to see him get in the end zone. But I really like the consistency and the floor for Pat Freiermuth. Let's go with him.
Yeah, it's interesting that we got two players in our lineup that I think that benefited from that Chase Claypool trade. I actually think the departure of Chase Claypool as a competitor for targets was good for Pat Freiermuth. Just look at his targets in the last 3 weeks. All right, love the pick, and wow, is he cheap at only $5,400? I will continue the concept of wow, was this guy cheap at quarterback. Michael, how the times have changed. As a big Seahawk fan myself, if you would have told me in a game which we don't have Pat Mahomes on the slate, as well as a bunch of other talented pass throwers like Justin Herbert, that I'd go 12, I got to go down to the 12th quarterback before we get to Russell Wilson. Wow. And that is a Russell Wilson that's in a fantastic matchup at home, favored. So everything is and again, against the 26 pass defense, we all know that Russell Wilson has struggled. But I love the fact that not only is he this cheap, but he gives you some rushing floor to help with his floor on offense. He's got to turn around and get more passing touchdowns. I know he has that ability in him. Let's hope for it this week.
Yeah, this offensive line has been a little frustrating. Russell Wilson going from a bad offensive line to another offensive line. But the Raiders are just what the doctor ordered for Russell Wilson. My Raiders have been so bad this year on the defensive side. I think that Denver wants to avenge the loss from earlier this season. And the way to do that is for Russell Wilson to get going, including on the run. And that's, I think, what you're going to see. I like that pick. I can't believe he's going for that cheap. Well, so we've left ourselves some money for the flex position. Love to get a running back in there if we can. So let's look at what we got available to us. You're in the defense. Let's move over to the flex. Great. So a guy who's benefited, unfortunately, from his teammate going on the IR is David Montgomery. And I know David Montgomery hasn't necessarily done this year what we've kind of seen from him in years past. But you know when he usually does it? Go back and look at the last 5-6 games of the last 2 years. That's when David Montgomery starts to turn it on. He gets used a little bit less than he probably should earlier on. They keep him healthy, and then boom, he starts to be utilized pretty heavily when it gets cold out there. And he's, going up against the Atlanta Falcons, who are just a horrible defense, maybe the worst defense in the league. And so not only should Chicago be up in this game, but David Montgomery is going to be using the passing game because Khalil Herbert's going to be out. So I really like that we can get him for only $6,200. I know he's had a couple of down weeks, but with Herbert out, I think we're going to start seeing some up weeks for David Montgomery.
Yeah, we're taking advantage of the fact that we know more than FanDuel knows. Herbert was just recently put on the IR. I do not think when they set this price, they would have set it higher. All right, so let's take a look at defense. Uh-oh. Let's see. We don't have a whole lot of money, folks. We are down to two suitors. The Raiders or Browns. Which way are we gonna go?
Well, I definitely would prefer the Browns defense to the Raiders defense, but the difference is who they're playing, right? And so we just talked a little bit about the Denver offensive line, how bad they've been. Yeah, the Raiders haven't put much pressure on them, but every once in a while they sneak in a sack. If somehow they can get ahead in this game, I think they got a better chance. I think Buffalo is going to be really upset after that Minnesota loss. Cleveland's going to get the brunt of that, and I don't think Cleveland's going to get the points that they'd like. So I say we go with the Raiders, so I can root for the Raiders this week for once again.
We also have a GPP lineup for you, and let's go over that now. For our GPP lineup, we're always looking for a high ceiling, which means we want to take advantage of correlation and stacking. So we're going to stack the Carolina and Baltimore game. Now, full disclosure of the 11 games, they're only the 5th highest, but maybe that means that less people will be on them at 43.5 over under. I'm going to go with Lamar Jackson, who I think is someone who has a very high ceiling. He's been a disappointment to me so far this year, but he always has the ability, look what he did in week 2 and 3, to have a real ceiling game. And because of the recent struggles, his price is a pretty reasonable at 8,400. We're going to, on the other side, get to his favorite target, Mark Andrews, and run that back with another guy that has a high floor in DJ Moore, who actually has a new quarterback throwing to him this week. PJ Walker is out, and we have a new quarterback. Do you know who that is?
Baker Mayfield is in, and I think
Sam Darnold's got to be going, what's the deal?
I know exactly, but and don't be too afraid of the questionable tag on Mark Andrews. You know, he was probably going to play in that week before the bye, but they just wanted to take advantage of the 2 weeks rest. He's a trooper. That was his first missed game his whole career, so I think you'll see him back. I like the upside here.
Another small stack, secondary stack that I did is attacking the 4th highest scoring game. It's Indianapolis and Philadelphia. And by the way, I think this Indianapolis club with Matt Ryan back as the quarterback has a much better ability to put points on the board. And that's why we're going to run that with the second targeted guy on Philadelphia behind A.J. Brown. But we get to save $2,000 off A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and running that back with Matt Ryan's favorite target, Michael Pittman.
Yeah, no, I like it a lot. Devontae Smith, if you watched him the other night, looked pretty impressive. So I like this matchup. It looks like you got another one in there with the Saints and the Raiders, with Alvin Kamara and the New Orleans Saints defense. And we've already been picking on, we've already talked a little bit about Kamara, but maybe you can talk about the Saints as well.
Yeah, well, I just really am going against the Rams here. I think without Cooper Kupp, they are really hurting on offense. And if they don't have Matthew Stafford, I love this stack even more to expect that New Orleans could potentially pile it on, especially on the defensive side. Yep. We have a couple of one-offs. David Montgomery, who we've already talked about, which is we think his ceiling could be very high without Khalil Herbert, and Curtis Samuel. Look, he's the secondary target on Washington, but the one thing I always like about Samuel, Michael, is he will get about 3 or 4 rushing carries. And what better team to get rushing carries against is than the Houston Texans, who are the worst in football.
Yeah, no, he's so dynamic. Really like this lineup. Love the upside that this lineup brings. I think we put a pretty interesting one together here. So let's go with it.
Also this week, Michael and I broke down the DraftKings Week 11 slate on cash, and that is on the screen now. And when available, we did our first show doing the NFL Power Rankings. That was a fun show. Be sure to check that out. Until next time, take care, everybody.